I was getting tattooed by people that we both know or knew or whatever out of the house, back in the day, like the punk rock skateboard thing, all kind of, I feel like Albuquerque early on had a lot, like everybody had tattoos like 89, 90,
No, the
And
only other place you find like that is LA. Southern California,
yeah, well,
Albuquerque.
I mean, I'll get to that, but
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, it was nuts because you would have bands come through, like punk rock bands used to play like Club Record and shit, and they would, be like, whoa, because everybody in the audience had all this, I mean, but by today's standards, it doesn't seem like much, but in 89, 90, it was like, you know, yeah. So guys like Ray Cedillo tattooed me first, R.I.P. Big Ed Tafoya, R.I.P. J.B. Jones, R.I.P. I wound up getting to know Ed pretty well through our mutual friend, Amos Troxel,
Mm-hmm.
Dominic Martinez, all those guys, Tommy, and Ed tattooed me a bunch.
Me
And
too.
back in the day,
Yeah.
and somewhere down the line, I started hanging around JB and Chris Partain. And I had known Chris, and I feel like Chris doesn't get enough credit as he deserves. Like I'd known Chris since middle school, but we were, back then we decided we were enemies. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And yeah, he was a year older than me, so he would show up, and all the little girls go flocking to him, and it'd be like, oh, who's this fucking asshole? It's like pretty boy or whatever. But Chris and I wound up becoming like really good friends later on down the road.
yeah.
And so what happened was I was getting tattooed by JB, and I started hanging out with JB and Chris a lot. The three of us became really, really good friends. JB's father had was a local artist who used to do like portrait, kind of like oil pastel
Oh, really?
type work. That yeah, stuff that you would see like let's say like in a hotel lobby, like real Southwest stuff, like a Native American type portrait, or like just real New Mexico kind of artwork.
Okay.
But it was all like portrait stuff, right? And he taught Brian Everett, who owned Route 66, kind of like he taught Brian how to do portraits on, canvas or whatever, and Brian translated that into tattooing.
Okay.
So when JB was working out of his house, his dad kind of reached out to Brian and was like, yo, my kid is working here. Can you? So Brian wound up hiring JB, which was huge because like Fine Line back then was just, I mean, they were another level. I mean, it was
Yeah.
$100 an hour in 1989. It seemed
Yeah.
like it must have been $1 million, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember going in there once and I had some stupid fucking playing part of a dumb Joker on it. And Cap Sumsky, R.I.P. It's like all these old tattooers are fucking dead now, man. Cap came out and was like, what do you want? I give him this playing card and he's like, 150, where's your ID? And I was like, oh, and fucking ran out of there. Because I mean, they were, like a lot of people don't
Intimidating.
realize this. Yes, not only that, but a lot of people don't realize Route 66 Fine Line Tattoo here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Back then, I mean, they were not only the best in the New Mexico, they were the best in the fucking Southwest. We were like top 10, 15 in the whole country.
Absolutely.
So the fact that JB got a job there was a big deal. And we had friends that will remain nameless because I'm not going to call anybody out on here that were fucking jealous and kind of dicks about it, frankly, that JB wound up getting a job there. And then Chris, then I was hanging around with him. So basically what happened was Chris was working the front and I was always hanging out in there. And he would need a night off to go play with his band or whatever, and I would fill in. So when Chris started tattooing, they needed a new front guy, and that's where I came in. And I did that for a year and a half, 2 years. Again, in the early 90s, not everybody had a cell phone they were recording every moment of their lives with. So my time is foggy, but about a year and a half, 2 years later, I started apprenticing. And, they knew, I had gone to art school and all that stuff. And again, it was learning how to draw tattoo designs. You know what I mean? But I feel very, very, very grateful to this day that, to JB and Chris, man, like, Like Chris doesn't get enough love in this town, man. Like I'm serious. Like that dude, he was fucking tattooing high quality shit on people for a long time. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
thought he
And
was
if
the man in Albuquerque. He taught everyone.
well, kind of.
No?
I mean, it's. I mean, everybody goes through their shit, right? And
Yeah.
so he went through his shit, and yeah, it's kind of like a weird sort of family tree. Like there's like a fine line tree. So it'd be like Brian and Cap, JB, Chris, me, and Jason Ward. You can throw like Delano Garcia in there, Tim McCarthy in there. And then other guys like Joe Bryan Stammer, who owns Red Light, he apprenticed under Chris. You can say, the guy that I apprenticed, Chisholm Lujan, he got the fine line apprenticeship. So, I mean, it's for me, it's extraordinarily important to keep that shit alive because tattooing's in a really fucked up place right now. But more on that in a sec. So then Jamie Trujillo is another key figure in my life.
Mm-hmm.
He was a really big presence in Albuquerque in the old punk rock days. Jamie used to do all the fucking flyers back in the day.
Yes.
Like all the old, like there's a famous Black Flag flyer that still circulates on Instagram and stuff that Jamie did back in the day.